The exhaust is out of my Porsche Boxster. Hooray! And now it's time to just get all of the stuff out of the way of the transmission so we can drop the transmission. This includes the drive axles and shift cables and a couple of other little parts. So we're gonna run underneath the car and pull those out. It's very easy to get this support bar off. 2 bolts right there, both 15 millimeter. Can also take this bracket off. This is the bracket that was holding the muffler on. There are 4 bolts, 2 here, which I've already removed, and 2 up here. They're all 13 millimeter bolts. At this point, I think I'll also disconnect this plug, which I think is the backup light sensor. Just want to disconnect it now before I forget. It's time to remove the drive axles. This is a number 8 hex wrench, and the car is in first gear with the parking brake on so that the wheels won't spin as I try and loosen these. I've done the ones that are easy to get to, so I'm going to put it in neutral, take the parking brake off, and turn this wheel so that I can get to the other ones that are on the top. So I have all 6 of these bolts loose. Now that they're loose, I've taken the parking brake off and I've put the engine in neutral. So now I can just spin the tire like that very easily and access each one of these. All right, I don't want to let this hang because I believe that can damage the joint. I'm just gonna wrap some wire around it. With the parking brake back on, I'm gonna go ahead and take the axle nut that I loosened completely off. Now, I should be able to pound out the axle right through here. Knock this out using a pen. Hey, there we go. Okay. Oh. I'm now gonna go ahead and remove this heat shield. This will give me access to the shift cables. There are 2 13 millimeter nuts. There we go. Heat shield is off. Now I have access to the shifter cables. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove these shift cables, 2 of them here. On the 6-speed and later transmissions, later 5-speed transmissions, they're supposed to just snap off. But I believe some of the earlier transmissions do have a clip that you have to release. So just be aware of that. All right, right here, there are clips that hold the shift cables onto the transmission. I'm thinking, just grab both sides of the clip like that, squeeze it, pop it out, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there we go. It was easier than I expected. Grab both sides of the clip, pull it out. All right, so there's the shift cables off. So moving on to the last component we have to remove. It's going to be pretty difficult to see, but it's the clutch slave cylinder. This is the left side of the car, and you can see there's a bolt right there. So I've got my 13mm socket and an extension, and that seems to be allowing me to get the bolt out of the slave cylinder. Sure enough, there we go. Okay, everything is ready for the transmission to be lowered out of the car. So that's great, but of course that's quite a big step. Two important notes here. Once the slave cylinder is out of the transmission, you cannot press on the clutch or you could damage the slave cylinder. Also, now that the drive axles are out, I cannot lower the car back down on its rear wheels, or I could damage the rear wheel bearings. So two things that I could cause damage to potentially. Anyway, so far so good. Now the big job of trying to drop out this transmission.